Nearly 100 creature maquettes were made during the production of Return of the Jedi. More than just little statues, these wildly creative sculptures were often the first steps in creating some of the most iconic aliens in Star Wars. Hey everybody, it's Tom from Regal Robot. I've had the good fortune to talk with so many of the people that have created these incredible maquettes. Let's hear what they have to say.
All we knew, at least I know Phil probably knew more, but we were just told it's a bunch of aliens at a party.
They were ramping up on Jedi, and the monster shop that we called it was taking shape, and Phil was heading up all that.
We didn't have a script. We didn't have, we didn't have Ralph McQuarrie designs or anything like that. There was no reference at that point. We basically had no information other than make a bunch of alien designs.
We went right from Dragon Slayer onto Jedi. And the first thing I remember is that Phil said we need to sculpt maquettes for potential creature designs.
When I first walked into the monster shop, those maquettes were sitting on a shelf.
Yeah.
Row after row of that. And I didn't even know what they were there for, what they were.
There was so much to do, and George trusted me. I found that George was much more inclined to pretty much immediately go for a maquette. The 2D stuff that, Ralph and Joe and Nilo would do, that whole thing kind of turns into well, what about this tail and that tail? But with the maquette, George could see it.
I just remember going to work every day and just, making up stuff in clay.
Yeah.
It was not usually how it's done.
That was an amazing time. It's like out of all, it was one of the golden, and it was only maybe a month or 6 weeks where we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And after the grunt work of the day, which that early days was like building the shop. But at night, Tommy Sanamon and I would sit in the old rubber room, which was just the second floor. It was a space maybe 20 by 24. And that there was Sculpey and just sculpt whatever creatures we would think of. And Tommy was very ebullient. He had a great sense of humor. He was always singing little, "Oh, boys, boys." He talked like he was out of a 40s King Kong movie.
Is the first thing that you're involved in making maquettes?
Yes, I guess so. And we did quite a few. We would send things over about I think it seems like it was on Fridays. They'd send a load over to George, and he would pick things. And so we would make more.
I'm asking Phil, so what is George's process for this? What should I be looking to do? And Phil just said, just do as many as possible. George usually says no to everything. So the first time George comes in to see this first batch of maquettes we've done, he comes, "Oh, cool. I like all of them. They're good."
You never knew what George was going to pick out of this stuff.
I mean, most of what we designed was rejected.
They had them laid out on this long table, and George went in there, and they're all kind of standing around the perimeter, and he would just go and he'd go, "Huh, okay, that's fun."
Really, working with George is a different thing. He's one of the gang. It wasn't like, "Oh my God, George Lucas is coming, oh Lord." And he would come by, and it was fun. As hard as everything was there, and it was hard, it was also fun at the same time. And it was kind of fun to be able to put these things together. And of course, they all didn't get picked. Okay, Who cares? And so it was just, he'd come by, and I don't ever remember getting nervous or being really disappointed in something not being picked. I just don't even have that memory.
Huh. That's a rare thing in the industry.
It is now.
And there was no, you can't do that, or that's a bad idea. I think
it was kind of pie in the sky. Just whatever you want to sculpt, make up something, sculpt it. And about once every week or two, George would come by and look at the maquettes we had done, and the ones he liked, he'd put a red sticker on them. And we would then start building those ones for real.
It was fun to see what he picked. And then we're like, all right, well, here's the next 9 months. We've got to make
Right. Yeah. Now we got to make this.
I generally start with the concept, that's very vague and abstract. And Rancor was a cross between a bear and a potato.
For myself, I'm sure I did some doodles or tried to figure out what I might want to do. I didn't show those to anybody.
Right.
For the maquettes, though, a lot of times I would be handed a drawing from the art department from either Nilo Rodas or Joe Johnston.
Right.
And usually it was a multi-generational Xeroxes.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of, some of them were really kind of hard to tell what was going on with
Good. It lets you put your spin on things, you know.
I guess, yeah.
Chris Wallace had already done a few, like Re-Yees is the one I remember is very Chris.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew what the what would you say the tone of them were. They weren't completely wacky, and they certainly weren't makeup effects. It was definitely, you know, I think, like they said, it's the Cantina on steroids. So
the pig guards, I started with a sketch. In the case of Nine Numb, I actually just started pushing clay around, and it wasn't nothing was coming of it. And so I turned it upside down, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I actually then finished it, and that turned into Nine Numb. So that was definitely designing as I sculpted.
I did a ton of maquettes and some sketches as well. I was filming on Raiders. I was filming on Dragon Slayer on the same day. We'd go do morning shoots on Dragon Slayer, and then it's do a test on the Raider, one of the Raiders' heads. And so when Phil said, "Well, we have to do a whole bunch of maquettes as well," I'm like, "Okay."
We were doing a lot of other things. We had to get these done. There was a deadline.
Some of the maquettes had been raced through really, really quickly, particularly by me. I'm a pretty fast sculptor. I certainly was at the time, but I raced through a few of those a bit too quickly.
And I'm sure going on in the background, there were probably times when Phil and the guys probably wondered, oh, is this going to get finished?
So it was literally, film a shot on one stage, run upstairs to either the rubber room or the art department, sculpt as fast as possible, sculpt maquettes, put them in the oven, run back down, do another shot, run back up, take the maquette out, let it cool down, run back down, set up another shot. There's a break, run upstairs, spend lunch, sculpting and painting maquettes. It was very, very busy. I mean, I would get there early and I would start doing maquettes just to wake up over coffee, basically.
We would get so tired, we would devolve into just making weird noises at each other. We were probably sleep deprived, but enjoying our time. We'd be like, I just remember he'd say like, snit snotkin, and I go plit plotkin. He'd go barf flarvkin. And then if something was particularly funny, we would just laugh. We would make nonsense words to each other. And that's
laugh. How half the creatures got their names.
Exactly.
Well, after a while, it was hard to come up with something different. I mean, you have your inclination. It's easy the first week, but after a while, you have to really, okay, what can I do? And I don't remember if I looked at pictures I have no idea what led to that guy. It's a nice pose.
It is, yeah.
And it was fun coming up with the little nonsensical things that go on it. I'm trying to remember, did I put something in his ears?
He's got a little earring in one ear, the top.
Oh, okay.
And I know he's got like a little necklace on, which...
Just stuff I found.
Yeah, it's neat. Of course, all those little elements you add onto it just make it harder for us when we go to recreate this stuff, so thanks. But,
It's always nice to add another dimension to the singular material you're working with. So whether that was adding costuming or weaponry or whatever, it really made a difference. So yeah, the whole thing about adding fur was actually to make, because we didn't know whether these were just going to be masks and hands with costumes or full suits. So a lot of the fur ones are kind of like, fursuits are easier to make than other kinds of suits, so this will be simpler. So that's why there's a couple that just have fur for no real reason.
The actual sculpting of it, the creation of the design from the art direction, George picking it, Bill bringing it back, allocating who was going to sculpt it, who was going to build up the foam, how are we going to get somebody inside it. That was all part of a massive teamwork to make that happen.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of crazy, but it was very inventive, and I got to play with creature design, and that's what I love to do.
That's why ILM was so great. All of you people, why don't you put your hands in it? You're all being offered this chance to come up with some stuff. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
How fun is that?
It was this kind of pure joy of just like, we're making dumb, we're designing monsters for Star Wars, which
Yeah.
if you told me a year earlier I'd getting paid to do that, I would have probably, jumped off a building with like disbelief. So there I was, grinning like an idiot, like I did most of the time, and just
Right.
sculpting these maquettes.
Hearing back from other people, I'm saying, I think,
Nice.
wow, I'm so happy that the work that we did 40 years ago, people are still enjoying it. That just kind of, I mean, you don't remember other things you did 40 years ago.
Well, who would have ever known that their
Right.
interest would have lived for another 40 years or whatever.
I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that as much as I did. I feel very, very fortunate that I get to chat with these ILM legends. These are people who have been heroes of mine since I was a kid. And I feel very, very fortunate that we get to have them be a part of these editions that we do. If you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, go to regalrobot.com and you can see our archive collection of replicas that are made with lineage right back to the original artifacts in the Lucasfilm archives. And thanks for watching. Please remember to press that like button, hit subscribe, and there's full interviews with everyone that you saw in this video on our channel. So subscribe and go check out those other videos. Hit like a few times and help support what we do. We appreciate it. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great day.